You might be watching this within the first week of joining this Omega Man program. You might be watching this somewhere between week 4 or week 10. One way or another, you're frustrated and you're thinking to yourself like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, I was kind of happy before. And let me tell you this, man, like, this is hard. All things worth something are hard. And everyone struggles somewhere. And we all struggle with being lonely. And ultimately, that is the struggle here, is like we're lonely. Now, that might mean that you've never been on a date, or you've never had sex, or you've never had a girlfriend. It might be that you are seeing girls and you are sleeping with girls, but you kind of want to keep the lights off because you don't like looking them in the eyes, or you don't really find them attractive. Or maybe, you do have sex, but it's only, when it's paid for. One way or another, like, we find a way to cope with this loneliness, whether it's by dating beneath ourselves, or whether it might be food, or it might be pornography, it might be masturbation. There's something, it might be video games, hell. There's something that before you enrolled into this program that you were using to replace the idea of a connection with a woman that you want. And like, when you don't have that, it's torture. It really is. Like, if you think about it, when we want to punish other human beings, we put them in prison. We surround them with the most violent and the most terrible people on the planet, and that's the punishment. But what do you do when you want to punish those people? You put them in isolation, because we would rather be around hardened criminals than to be alone. And I will tell you, like, as a human being, our need to connect with others starts affecting us and damaging us permanently more so than our need for food. Because you can go a week without eating and not be traumatized, but if you go a week without any interactions with another human being, it can traumatize you for life. Like, loneliness is serious. And it doesn't just mean that you're sitting at your house all day long in a room. You can be in a room of 1,000 people and still be alone. You can have a woman in your bed and still feel alone. You can be in a relationship and still feel alone. But when we replace that desire that we have for like true connection, for that one person, or even that lifestyle that you're looking for, and we replace it with other things, it acts as a drug. Now, I want to give you this analogy. Like, you think to yourself, like, I had a conversation with one of the guys in the program, and he felt like he was kind of dating beneath himself, but he found satisfaction. I mean, at least you're getting laid. You know what I mean? And he really started to struggle, and like a lot of us struggle. And and it was like, imagine being a kid, right? And you get to eat a Hershey bar, kind of whenever you want. Like, after dinner, you get to eat a Hershey bar. You get to eat a Hershey bar. And then you get older and you see people eating this fine Belgian chocolate. And people just like, their eyes rolling back and be like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing in the world. And you get a taste of it and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. This is just like not even comparable to that Hershey bar. And it's like, how do I get this? I want this all the time. And they're like, well, you got to do your chores. You got to do some work. And then you can have this. And so, like, sometimes you just settle and be like, you know what? Fine, I'll just eat Hershey bars for the rest of my life. It means that I don't have to work. But if you actually tasted that chocolate, you know that it would be worth it. But here's the thing. If you've never tasted that chocolate, how do you know that it's worth it? You're kind of taking a leap of faith that it's like all this hard work is eventually going to give me what I need, opposed to I can settle for less, but I'm guaranteed to get it. And that it's such a mind fuck. It's such a mind fuck. And that voice in your head, that monster in your mind, is going to tell you that just take the easy road. just take the easy road. You got a girl? You got a girl? So you're getting laid? Like, isn't that enough? But there's a difference. How hard you work for something quantifies how much joy you get out of it once you have it. I have a trophy in my office. It's a bodybuilding trophy. And I've got another trophy in my office. It's a ping pong trophy. Okay? The ping pong trophy is my dad's. It comes with a fun story of how he kind of ran his mouth in 8th grade and lost a ping pong tournament, and then the next year he went to win it. But the bodybuilding trophy is mine from when I did a national show. And I grew up a real skinny kid. And I used to get really high fevers that would just essentially just destroy my body, like eat away at muscle mass. I would lose 18 pounds in a week sometimes, like 105, 106 degree fevers. And in order for me to be able to compete on that level, I would work my ass off, and then I'd get sick and my body would get destroyed. I'd work my ass off and body gets destroyed. And I did this for 2 years. And I won one show, and then I went to nationals, and I competed there. And when I hold that trophy, I feel a certain way. Now, when I hold my dad's trophy, they're made out of the same thing, right? But that feeling that I get when I hold this one, it's like, fuck. Like, the stories I tell, the emotion that I feel, same substance, different experience. And it's like, if I was kind of just like naturally a big dude and I was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm a pretty big guy. I think I'm gonna compete. And a month later I did a show, won a trophy. It wouldn't feel the same. Same trophy now. Not just same substance, same trophy. But I wouldn't feel the same. And like, we're all given these challenges in our lives. And you know, you've got to put it in perspective. Like, look, being a human being is a rare occurrence in the universe, and you get a shot at it. We're the only creatures that get the conscious choice to create whatever the heck we want, to be whatever we want, to have whatever we want. Like, my dog can't do that. My dog can't decide he wants to be a cat. Like, it doesn't work that way. And like, you know, for you spiritual people who just want to be angels, like, yo, angels can't eat pizza. Angels can't get blowjobs. Like, humans can do all of it. So it's like you get 100 years max to like make shit happen, to write a story. And so with something so rare, why would you not want to create something that you even question yourself of whether it was possible? Because when you do, it feels like you're defying the laws of the universe that told you from birth, that told you throughout growing up that you will never have this. And when you defy those odds, that feeling that you get, it's absolutely insane. It's incredible. But here's the thing, if you've never had that, how can you develop that feeling if you never tried the chocolate? This is tough. It's like, well, give me the chocolate and then I'll know that it's worth it. And it's like, well, prove that you want it and then I'll prove that it's worth it and then I'll give it to you. It's a chicken and egg type thing. And again, the voice in your head just says, like, go back to what you were doing. Go back to the video games. You were happy there. Go back to the prostitutes, the escorts. You were happy there. So you've got a couple things. One, you have to realize that that voice in your head is trying to tell you that it's serving you. It's not. It's the monsters in your mind consume your negative energy. That's how they eat. It's nothing personal against you. They don't hate you. The voices in your head. It's like bears don't hate fish. They just eat them. That's the way nature is, right? They're mechanisms that eat fish. But you have to understand that that voice is trying to trick you and say, hey, I'm being good to you so you can suffer in the long term. So how do we realize that it's worth it? Like, what can you do? Well, it all kind of comes from getting a taste of what that chocolate would be like. Maybe not necessarily that chocolate, but maybe like a couple tiers down and a little sample of it, and say, okay, well, shit, this is better than the Hershey's. So maybe. So, and I know that there's much farther levels than this. Wow, if it's the third level is that great, maybe what's the second level like? Second level is that good. What's the first level like? What's the top level like? Okay, so you have to celebrate your little successes. So maybe you got someone to go out with you from dating online, and maybe she's not your ideal girl, but at least you did it. Maybe you spoke to a woman on the street or while you were running errands or something like that, and you got her phone number, and you ask her on a date, and maybe this isn't your ideal girl, but you're doing it. You're going out and you're creating for yourself. And so the first step is like don't just say the only thing I will accept is this chocolate here. Like try all the layers at a time, and each time that you take a step up, like celebrate it and appreciate it. And say, I'm moving forward. You have to appreciate these little wins, okay? Now, this program is 12 weeks long. You have probably been suffering from this loneliness possibly your entire life. You may be 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, maybe even older. And to build a construct that keeps you imprisoned may have taken decades, but in order to rewire yourself, to rebuild it, will only take 3 months, maybe 6 months. Now you tell me, like, hey, I can build this shitty building in a decade, but if you give me 6 months, I can build a really good one. Like that defies nature by that definition. Like by most definition of building, like something shitty should take a decade, and if you want something really good, it's going to take 2 decades. So this is a relatively short process. Even if it takes a year, even if it takes 2 years. The amount of time that it takes to untangle a decade's worth of interference or being fucked up or whatever, however you associate to it, it's rather efficient. It just feels like a long time because, when you're in pain, time slows down. So, realize that relatively this is a short amount of time. Celebrate those little wins. Every time that you had the courage to go up and walk up to a stranger and say, hey, who are you? Like, what's your name? And you introduce yourself to them, and they actually were receptive. Like, celebrate that. Even if they reject you, celebrate that you're doing something more than you did before. Because again, if you move 1% per day, in 100 days, your life has changed. Okay? And again, if it takes a year, 1/3 of 1% a day in a year, your life is completely changed. Actually, that's 10 months. So celebrate those little wins. And then finally, work this into your meditations. Like before we can create something, there has to be a vision of it. Like this building that I'm in right now, before this was built, it was a conversation. It was a desire in someone's head. I think I want to build a building. Then they talked about it. Hey, what would that building look like? It would be a number of stories. It would be made out of brick. It would be a loft. And then there was a blueprint designed, a picture on a piece of paper that represented what it's going to look like and how it's going to happen. And then once you can kind of see that, then you can start the design. Okay, how are we going to use this space? And once that all comes together, it is only then can you start to break ground and move towards that. So in your meditations, in your 5 and 5 meditations, you want to do that same thing. So in your mind, for 5 minutes, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine what this woman looks like. And I want you to see the features of her face. I want you to see the curves of her body. I want you to see how tall she is, how she lights up when she smiles, and like all of just like the singular attributes, merely what she looks like, one dimension. Then I want you to step it into another dimension. How does she move? How does she smile when she talks? How does it make you feel when she scoots a little bit closer to you? Okay? And I want you to imagine these things. Like when you hold hands with her, what side are you on? Do you hold hands like this, or do you interlock fingers? Like start thinking about details of of what you'd want, and be as specific as you want. The more specific you can imagine this, the more clearly you can create what it is that you want. Then add another dimension to it. How does she treat you? How do you treat her? How do you serve her in her life? Like, what is it about you as a man that makes her better as a woman? Because that's what quantifies a good relationship. Did you leave her better than you found her? Did she leave you better than she found you? And so what plays a role in that? How do you guys deal with arguments? Like when she's upset, how do you handle her? When you're upset, how would you want her to handle you? and go through these scenarios in your mind. And then finally get to that feeling. Add the next dimension to it. After relation, it's just like feeling. Like, how do you feel when she's away? How do you feel when she's getting ready for the night and you guys are about to go someplace fancy? And she walks out of the bedroom down the hall and you can just hear the heels click, clack, click, clack, as you know she's about to come around the corner, freshly done up, looking just as gorgeous as ever. How do you feel when you light up when you see her? What do you say to her? Like, when you can incorporate all of these elements of like what this relationship would be for you, everything from the way she looks, to the way she moves, to the way she speaks, to the way you serve her, she serves you, it's gonna become more real in your head. All creation started out with a thought, turned into a feeling, turned into an image, articulated with language, planned out, and then executed. And that's what we're doing in this Omega Man program. This is a way that everything in this earth is created. It's why I'm in this notebook. You guys see this notebook all the time. It's why I bring it with me everywhere, is because when I want to create something that I've never had before, you first have to not only be able to articulate it, you have to be able to embody it without it even being there. So I know that you feel like quitting. That's okay. You're going to get this. You're going to get this. The most important thing is that you took action to watch this video. If this video wasn't enough for you, take action, get on the Voxer, hit me up. Hey, Spence, I'm struggling. I'm not getting the results I want to see, and reach out to me. It's the only way that this can fail is if you don't speak up, if you don't reach out, if you don't continue to try, then that loneliness and that drug, whatever it is for you, is going to take over, and you're never going to have what you want. So practice those meditations, celebrate the wins, be okay that you want to quit, but keep your ass moving.